Hello, friends. It's getting kind of spicy out there, so figured it's a good time for a RebelKitty Report. This is the RebelKitty Report for the week of April 21st, 2024.
Why are you gay?
So one of the first big story I'd like to start with, I'm curious if this is going to get really much play in the media, but a United States base in Syria was recently attacked by Iranian-backed groups in Iraq. And this is kind of a story we have touched on many times on these segments. As you know, that there's kind of been an ongoing tension between the United States and Iraq, where we have a tendency to bomb or attack militant groups in the area, even though the militant groups are recognized as part of the people's mobilization forces there in Iraq. So we will kill them, and then they'll get upset, and it's kind of been a back and forth where they haven't really retaliated much since February, but here we are today. 5 rockets were launched and towards a base in Syria. So even though the groups are in Iraq, they bring a truck up to the border, and then they start lobbing rockets. And the United States promptly responded and blew up the rocket truck. As far as I know, I'm not sure that any casualties are reported. It doesn't seem like it was super severe, but I could, with the way the current events are as now, I could see this kind of getting spun up as maybe being Iran related, or Iran provoked it or something. So even though this is something that's kind of been going tit for tat and escalating for some time, I'm curious if maybe this could get used to justify some kind of escalated actions in Iraq. We'll see, but it is kind of an interesting and developing story as of right now. Now, 3 things that we bring up on this channel pretty often are Syria, Turkey, and Africa. And we have a story here that, in a really bizarre way, brings all 3 together. So it was recently discovered that Turkey is purchasing, or at least paying, for mercenaries in Syria to go fight in Niger, in Africa. And we've brought up Niger before, but it's been kind of an interesting situation with them. Relations with the United States have pretty much deteriorated, and the United States is being more or less forcibly removed from the country. There are currently attempts to somewhat diplomatically save the situation, but the United States is more or less militarily withdrawing, particularly from their mission against ISIS in the country. So at the same time you have a deterioration of U.S. relations, you have Turkey apparently sending mercenaries to go do what exactly in Niger? It's kind of a curious detail. As many folks would know, Turkey is a member of NATO, so they are in a strategic alliance with the United States. However, there's been a lot of times where Turkey has either gone instead of Western powers to represent them in some way, or vice versa, has been used to sort of project and convey Muslim issues and agenda points. So it's like they go both ways. Sometimes they're very pro-Western and sincere friends of ours, and then at other times, like Erdogan in particular, the prime minister there seems to use it to his advantage. Like if Russia will give him help, or if anyone else seems to give him help, he seems willing to take it. So it's an interesting situation we have in Turkey, where they're constantly playing both sides. Since back in the Ottoman Empire days, they've been doing this. And it seems that there may still be some of this going on today in Niger. So eyes definitely should stay focused there on any breaking stories. So moving over to West Africa, kind of an interesting story developing in Burkina Faso. It's a country I think we brought up before, but it seems that some strange situation has arisen with the French. And a French series of French diplomats have been expelled from the country and accused of subversive activities. It looks like 3 diplomats specifically were removed, and it's not really specified what the subversive activities were, but there's been an increasing anti-Western sentiment in Burkina Faso. They've historically kind of resented their ex-French colonial rulers. And so, I mean, it's hard to tell if this is just a natural consequence of the tension, or if perhaps the tension is being egged on in any way. But as we've noted, there's a lot of escalating situations within Africa right now. And I think we'll add Burkina Faso to the list of ones to keep an eye on. So moving a little east, in Congo, it's kind of just been an ongoing open war situation in Congo for a while. But recently, 11 people were killed in a pretty big and dramatic attack carried out by the Allied Democratic Forces. Allied Democratic Forces are kind of an interesting faction in Congo. They are an Islamist faction that has also taken root in Uganda. At least that's where they were founded. And they have since pledged their allegiance to ISIS. So strangely enough, in the middle of Africa, you have essentially ISIS-backed militants running amok and causing one hell of a problem for the security forces in the region. In fact, it's become so bad, the situation in Congo in particular has been spilling out into multiple countries. And it's sort of been especially due to the location of Congo, has been very much like a nexus of Islamic extremism in Africa, as well as just generally conflict and ethnic struggles. So, I think we've already been trying to keep an eye on the Congo for a while, but obviously the situation there has not gotten much better in recent weeks. And the last story I kind of wanted to cover for today isn't really a specific story, but we are just a couple days ago started the Indian general elections, which is kind of a long, lengthy, and extremely complex process. They have a lot of parties and politics in general there in India. But the general elections are slated to go from the 19th of April to the 1st of June. So that's a pretty considerable window of time. Up for grabs is most notably the Prime Minister seat. And I thought we'd take a moment to take a look at Narendra Modi, who's basically the incumbent and clear favorite to win. And kind of give more context to this guy, check him out, and see what he's about. As we've certainly covered India in several stories in this segment, and some of them have been a little odd. So thought I'd do a little more digging into the man himself. Now, Narendra Modi is considered by some the most popular prime minister in the world. Lending largely in part to the fact that India has an enormous population, but he also seems to consistently poll pretty high. He seems fairly popular among the Indian population, and while some have accused him of fomenting sort of a nationalist attitude, He's still retained a pretty high level of popularity that other world leaders don't really enjoy quite the same. So, again, he's heavily favored to win, and it is very likely that he will. And his spirit seems to be very pervasive throughout Indian politics and foreign policy. So, what exactly is his foreign policy? It's kind of been evolving. India has consistently been pretty close allies with the United States. That hasn't really changed with Modi at all. Modi, if anything, has improved relations with the United States a lot. However, he does some interesting things where he'll fight Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, and get really upset at Canada and stuff like this. And he'll do things to be buddy with Russia. Like currently, India is one of the largest suppliers for fuel for Russia, considering they've been basically sanctioned out of everywhere else of getting certain fuels or selling their stuff, liquid natural gas. So India's been, like, while they're on one end very close to the United States and generally friendly with the West, they, similarly to Turkey, will play both sides when it kind of suits their interests. Which, I mean, every kind of major country does that nowadays. It seems to be pretty common. But it's just interesting to note. So one thing I thought was kind of curious. So while many have see Modi's relationship with Vladimir Putin as quite close, Modi doesn't seem to have as close of a relationship with China. So, like, fears that he would be integral in some kind of military alliance against the West or what have you. I'm not sure that those are really founded at all. Seems most likely that in some sort of grander conflict, India would be allies with us. But it is curious that at least geopolitically, and for now, while they can, they seem to certainly enjoy the benefits of kind of being friends with both sides in every conflict. We'll see where that goes from here. But look forward to seeing the end of those elections, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing more of Narendra Modi. Alrighty, well, that concludes our report for the day, but thank you for joining me, friends. As always, love you. Bye.